Welcome to the deep dive. We cut through the noise to get you the insights you really need.
Mhm.
And today, we're tackling something huge: textile waste, the
Mm.
sheer amount generated globally.
It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, you think about fast fashion, how much we all consume. Our
Yeah.
closets are just overflowing and all that stuff. A lot of it ends up in landfills. So we urgently need solutions.
We really do. And it's not just an environmental thing anymore. It's becoming a real economic focus.
Exactly. And that's what's fascinating, how the world is starting to see this not just as a problem, but, well, as a market opportunity.
A rapidly growing one.
Precisely. Which brings us to our main source for this deep dive,
Mm.
the Global Textile Waste Management Market Outlook 2033.
Right.
This report gives us a really detailed financial look at how countries, companies, everyone really, are starting to invest in changing how we handle this waste.
Mm-hmm.
So our mission for you listening is to give you that shortcut. We want to unpack the key numbers, the trends happening region by region, and, what's really driving this transformation in textile waste.
And you'll find some pretty surprising growth rates in here and what they actually mean for, well, everything from our clothes to the planet.
Okay, so let's start with the big picture. Give us those overall global numbers.
Okay, so globally, back in 2021, this market was worth about $6.75 billion.
Okay.
But here's where it gets interesting. It's projected to hit over $9.3 billion by 2025.
Wow, that's quick.
And then it really takes off, expected to surge to nearly $17.8 billion by 2033.
17.8 billion. So what's the growth rate on that?
We're looking at a compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, of almost 8.4%.
8.4%. That's pretty robust. What's pushing that kind of growth?
Well, the source points to a few key things coming together. There's definitely a bigger push from society, towards sustainability.
Right, more awareness.
Exactly. And then there's the whole circular economy idea really taking hold. For textiles, that means designing waste out, keeping materials in use, longer recycling, reusing.
Making things last.
Yeah. And regenerating natural systems where possible. And maybe most importantly, there's more and more regulatory support. Governments are stepping in.
Okay, regulations forcing change. That makes sense.
It really fuels investment and innovation.
All right, so that's the global view. But you mentioned the picture changes when you look region by region.
Oh, absolutely. While the overall trend is up, the speed of that trend varies quite a bit. Fascinating differences.
Okay, let's dive into that then. Where should we start? North America.
Sounds good. So North America, the market there was just under $1.7 billion back in 2021.
Okay.
It's projected to more than double, hitting over $4.1 billion by 2033. That's a solid CAGR of 7.8%.
7.8%. And within North America, the U.S. is obviously the biggest piece.
Yeah, no surprise there. The U.S. started at about $1.36 billion in 2021, and it's forecast to reach roughly $3.25 billion by 2033. That's a steady 7.5% CAGR.
Okay.
But here's something interesting. Canada.
Oh, yeah.
Smaller market, sure, around $260 million in 2021, but its growth rate is higher, a CAGR over 9.3%. Expected to hit almost $770 million by 2033.
Huh. Over 9%. Why do you think Canada's growing faster? More proactive policies, maybe?
Could be. Or maybe they're early adopters of certain recycling tech. It definitely stands out.
Yeah, in Mexico.
Mexico shows the lowest CAGR in the region, 6.4%, growing from about 69 million to 150 million. Still growth, but slower paced.
Got it. Okay, let's hop across the pond to Europe. You said it was one of the biggest markets initially.
That's right. Over $2.2 billion in 2021, and it's projected to reach over $5.5 billion by 2033. So that's a strong CAGR too, almost 8%, 7.969% to be exact.
Nearly 8%. And how did that break down within Europe? Any standouts?
Well, you see pretty solid, consistent growth across many key economies. The UK, for instance, grew steadily from about 328 million to 762 million, a 7.3% CAGR.
Okay.
Germany saw quite significant growth, moving from around 420 million up to over $1 billion by 2033. That's a 7.8% CAGR.
Over $1 billion just in Germany. Wow.
Yeah. France also performed well, over 8.1% CAGR, going from 325 million to about 834 million. And then, what's quite noteworthy, Italy and Russia. Both are looking at TOBs are above 8.5%. Italy heading towards 624 million. Russia around 519 million.
Interesting. Italy and Russia pushing higher rates.
And one more surprise, maybe? Luxembourg.
Luxembourg. Really?
Yeah, small country, obviously, but projected for really exceptional growth. from about 92 million to nearly 250 million by 2033. That's an 8.6% CAGR.
That is high for a smaller nation. Any idea why? Targeted incentives?
Could be, or maybe a specific niche like high-tech recycling is concentrated there. It's definitely something to watch. The rest of Europe as a collective lagged a bit, around 4.8% CAGR.
Okay, so Europe. Strong, consistent, with some interesting faster movers like Italy, Russia, and Luxembourg. Now, Asia Pacific, you hinted this was where the real acceleration is happening.
Oh, absolutely. Asia Pacific has the highest projected CAGR of all regions. We're talking over 9%.
Over 9% for the whole region.
Yep, 9.089%. It's growing from about $1.9 billion in 2021 to a massive $5.4 billion by 2033.
That's huge growth. Who's leading that charge? China, I assume?
China's definitely a major player, growing from around 666 million to over 1.8 billion by 2033. That's an 8.7% CAGR.
Strong.
Japan's goes behind, an 8.3% CAGR, expected to reach about 865 million.
Okay.
But if you want the real headline for this region, maybe even the whole report,
Yeah.
it's India.
India. What are their numbers looking like?
India isn't just growing, it's exploding.
Yeah.
It has the highest country-level CAGR in the entire analysis, a phenomenal 10.7%.
10.7%. Wow.
Yeah, going from just under 300 million in 2021 to over $1 billion by 2033.
Over $1 billion from under 300 million. That's incredible. What's driving that kind of surge in India?
It's likely a mix of things. Rapid industrialization means more textile production and therefore more waste, but also probably growing environmental awareness domestically, maybe some ambitious government programs kicking in, or a really active startup scene focusing on circularity.
A perfect storm for growth, in a way.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
And don't forget Singapore and Taiwan either,
Yeah.
both showing very strong growth too. Singapore's at nearly 9.8% CAGR, reaching 246 million.
Almost 10%.
And Taiwan, actually just over 10%, 10.1% CAGR, reaching about 175 million.
So Asia Pacific is really the engine room for this market's future growth, particularly India.
It certainly looks that way based on these projections.
Okay, let's cover the other regions. South America.
South America stood at about 432 million in 2021. It's projected to hit around 1.2 billion by 2033. That's a healthy CAGR of nearly 8.9%.
Almost 9%. Very strong. Brazil leading there.
Yes, Brazil's the leader, climbing from about 187 million to over 515 million by 2033. That's an 8.8% CAGR.
Okay.
And also notable, Argentina and Colombia are both showing really strong growth rates, above 9.4%.
Wow. Okay, so strong performance across South America, too. What about the Middle East?
The Middle East started smaller, about 263 million in 2021, but it's projected to reach over 760 million by 2033. That growth comes out to an impressive 9.3% CAGR.
9.3%. Also very high. Any specific countries driving that?
The UAE is really setting the pace there, a massive 10.4% CAGR.
Over 10% again.
Yeah, rocketing from about 42 million in 2021 to 137 million by 2033.
Why the UAE specifically? Big sustainability push.
That's the likely driver. They have ambitious sustainability goals, investing heavily in green tech and infrastructure. It seems to be paying off in this sector.
Makes sense. And other countries?
Others like Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Egypt, Qatar, they're all showing strong KGRs too, basically between 9% and that 10.4% figure.
So the Middle East is definitely another high-growth hotspot. Okay, last region, Africa.
Africa was valued at about 257 million in 2021. It's expected to rise to nearly 691 million by 2033. That reflects a robust TGR too, 8.4%.
8.4%, so pretty much in line with the global average. Which countries are leading in Africa?
Nigeria is projected to lead, reaching almost 300 million by 2033, followed closely by South Africa, which should hit over 285 million, growing at a strong 8.9% CGR.
Okay, 8.9% for South Africa, also quite strong. Phew. Okay, that was a whirlwind tour of the globe. Lots of numbers, lots of growth. If we step back now, what's the big takeaway from digging into this global textile waste management market outlook?
I think it makes it crystal clear, doesn't it? These aren't just, abstract figures.
Right.
They really show a massive shift happening. How the world thinks about and handles textile waste is fundamentally changing.
Driven by. Remind us of those core drivers.
It's that combination. Growing consumer awareness, people caring more about where clothes end up.
Yeah.
Then that wave of government mandates pushing for action.
Right, the regulations.
And finally, real innovation happening in recycling and reprocessing technologies. Those three things together are fueling this market growth we're seeing everywhere.
So it's like a financial signal of a deeper change, a move away from that old take, make, dispose way of thinking.
Exactly. Towards well, hopefully genuinely sustainable fashion and a more circular economy globally.
It really feels like a tangible shift. Okay, as we wrap up, here's something for you, our listener, to think about. Given this incredible momentum we're seeing in turning textile waste old clothes into a real economic opportunity, what could be next? What other unlikely waste stream, something we mostly just throw away now, might be on the verge of a similar boom?
Hmm.
What other problem could transform into a major market for innovation and investment? Something to chew on. Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're your shortcut to getting smart about complex topics fast. Today, we're jumping into something that's, well, quietly transforming a huge part of our world: textile waste management. It's super critical and honestly feels like a race against the clock. For this deep dive, we've pulled key insights from a market report all about the textile waste management market. Our mission, like always, is to boil it down to what you really need to know. You'll get the core story, some surprising facts, and a clear picture of this really vital sector.
It really is amazing. I mean, think about the journey of our clothes from fashion shows to historically just ending up in landfills. That whole life cycle, it's undergoing this massive necessary change. So today, yeah, we'll explore what's driving it, the big challenges involved, and some of the really promising trends that are reshaping things towards hopefully a much more sustainable future.
Okay, let's get into it then. What's really fueling this? I mean, this push for managing textile waste better, where's all the energy coming from?
Well, the first big driver is definitely, the growing environmental concern, and linked to that, much tighter regulations. Did you know the fashion industry might be responsible for up to 10% of global carbon emissions? That's actually more than international flights and shipping put together. It's staggering.
Wow, 10%.
Yeah, and that kind of figure. It's really pushing governments across the globe to bring in stricter environmental rules, specifically targeting the bad effects of textile waste, landfill overflow, groundwater pollution, and those greenhouse gases we mentioned. So these policies, they basically force everyone involved, manufacturers, cities, waste companies, to set up proper management systems,
Mm.
systems that actually align with sustainability goals and, cut down that huge environmental footprint.
That makes sense. A really powerful push. But, speaking of drivers, something that really jumped out from the report was this kind of paradoxical idea: fast fashion. It's a huge part of the problem, right? But the report suggests it's also somehow pushing solutions forward. How does that even work?
Yeah, it sounds a bit counterintuitive, doesn't it? But think about it. Clothing consumption has just exploded. Trends change super fast, clothes are cheap, and people buy more. What that means is a dramatic surge in the sheer volume of textile waste. Just mountains of old clothes. And this huge spike in post-consumer waste, well, it makes effective collection, sorting, recycling systems absolutely essential. Countries and companies, they just have to deal with it. So, ironically, the problem scale is driving the market for solutions, partly because just dumping it is getting more expensive and difficult. And then there's the third big growth factor: the incredible progress in recycling tech. This isn't just, shredding stuff for insulation anymore. We're talking new chemical and mechanical methods, especially the fiber-to-fiber innovations. They're really changing the game.
Fiber to fiber. So, like clothes back into clothes.
Exactly. Breaking down complex fabrics, even blends, sometimes right down to the molecular level, to create new fibers that are basically virgin quality. That was a massive hurdle just a few years back. These advances, they don't just make recycling more efficient. They're actively encouraging fashion brands to adopt real circular economy models.
Right, moving away from just take, make, dispose.
That's precisely. It's about keeping materials in use longer, designing for durability, reuse, and then, yeah, effective recycling back into new stuff. It's becoming a core business strategy for some.
Okay, so that's the momentum, the push. But like with any big shift, it can't all be smooth sailing. What are the major roadblocks, the things holding this back despite the growth?
Well, one really significant hurdle is just the high operational cost. Setting up and running these recycling facilities, it's expensive. You need a building, sophisticated sorting machines, often using optical tech to tell fibers apart, plus skilled labor, transport. It all adds up.
Especially the sorting, I imagine. Separating a polycotton blend sounds tricky.
Incredibly tricky. And those specialized machines cost a fortune. It often makes facilities unprofitable unless they're huge or get significant subsidies. And this cost factor, it's particularly tough for developing regions. It makes it really hard to scale up these kinds of initiatives where they might be needed most. Then there's another big issue: um, not enough standardization and pretty poor sorting right at the source, like in our homes or collection bins. So many clothes today are made from mixed materials. Cotton polyester, maybe some spandex thrown in, plus dyes, chemical
Yeah,
treatments.
the label often looks like a chemistry experiment.
Exactly. And all that complexity. It makes recycling much harder. It slows down the process, reduces efficiency, and crucially, it can compromise the quality of whatever you get out at the end. Makes it tougher to create high-value new textiles.
And linking that back to us, to the listeners, there's a challenge of public awareness, right? And just getting people involved. I mean, honestly, how many of us actually know the best way to get rid of an old worn out shirt? Do you donate it? Does it go in a special bin?
That's a huge point. In many places, people are genuinely unsure about how to properly dispose of or recycle clothes. So, without strong public participation, using donation points correctly, using brand take-back schemes, a massive amount of textiles that could be reused or recycled just ends up in landfill or incinerated.
It's often not even apathy, is it? It's just a lack of clear, easy options.
Exactly. Lack of guidance, lack of accessible infrastructure sometimes.
Okay, so those are some pretty tough hurdles. High costs, tricky materials, getting the public on board. Given all that, where are we seeing the real breakthroughs? What trends are actively reshaping things right now?
Well, we're certainly seeing the rise of brands themselves leading circular economy initiatives. Big fashion names are starting to, take more responsibility, launching their own recycling programs, designing sustainable lines, genuinely thinking about end of life and partnering up with recycling companies.
Is that mostly genuine, do you think? Or is some of it maybe a bit of greenwashing?
That's always a fair question. And look,
Yeah.
there's probably a spectrum. But the best initiatives, they're making real investments in the infrastructure, in redesigning products for easier recycling, not just in marketing. And these efforts, when done well, they definitely resonate with customers who are increasingly looking for more sustainable and ethical options. It's becoming a real brand differentiator. And connecting to the tech advancements we talked about, there's the really exciting growth of textile-to-textile recycling models.
Right, the closed loop idea.
Exactly, where discarded clothes are actually reprocessed into high-quality new fibers to make new clothes, completing the circle rather than just downcycling into, say, rags or insulation. Thanks to the tech improvements and growing government support, these closed-loop systems are really gaining traction, especially in places like Europe and North America. This is critical because it's moving beyond just managing waste. It's fundamentally rethinking how we make and unmake clothing, thinking of waste as a resource.
Now, something else in the report that really caught my eye was the mention of digital waste tracking systems. That sounds pretty advanced. How do those actually work? What's the big advantage there?
Yeah, they're a huge leap forward, actually. These are smart tech platforms, think apps, databases, sometimes using things like RFID tags or even blockchain
Blockchain.
for clothes.
Potentially,
Yeah.
yes, for creating an unchangeable record. The point is, these systems can track textile waste right from collection through sorting, processing, and sometimes even into the new product it becomes. The biggest game changer. Transparency and data. Suddenly you have visibility. These digital tools help optimize logistics like planning efficient collection routes. They provide invaluable data for brands, for recyclers, for policymakers to make smarter decisions. It makes the whole chain way more efficient and accountable.
So it's like giving everyone X-ray vision into the waste stream. That's a good way to put it, yeah. Much needed visibility. So you see, the textile waste management market is moving incredibly fast. It's a really necessary shift, given, well, the pressures of overproduction and the environmental impact we've discussed. As the innovation continues and regulations keep evolving, this market is absolutely crucial for building a more circular, more sustainable global economy. It's really about changing our whole mindset about waste.
Okay, this has been fascinating. It really paints a picture of rapid change, huge challenges, but also some really smart solutions emerging. Which brings us to a final thought for you, our listeners. Considering everything we've talked about, the sheer scale of fast fashion, the amazing recycling tech coming online, but also those persistent costs and sorting issues, what new challenges do you think might pop up as this textile to textile, this closed loop recycling becomes even more common? And maybe more importantly, how could we start preparing for those now? Something to think about.